Hi, I'm Kat, and this is Susan.
Hello.
Yeah, today we are going to bridge a very sensitive and serious topic because of the way the Epstein files has been in the news cycle predominantly for so long. I thought, and Susan and I both thought that it would be a really good time to face some really hard questions. Susan has gone through and brought up some really great examples that we could talk about where the Epstein estate and these files have put sex trafficking and child sex abuse front and center and in the public eye.
Yeah.
So I say let's use that for some good.
I agree.
What do you see, Susan? What have you seen? What did you want to talk about when we're looking at the whole scope of child sex abuse?
Well, I figured that that's something every one of us is concerned about.
I mean, yeah,
and
how bad is
so
it?
we want to know, is it a bad problem? Is this just the tip of the iceberg that we're seeing? What have we been doing about it? And the research kind of led me in some directions I wasn't expecting.
Right.
So figured we'd start with that statement that Megyn Kelly just made.
Yeah, did you see? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If any of you saw that, it was just crazy. Go ahead.
I agree. Yeah, so on her show, and she said this more than once, actually, I found out.
Yeah.
She said she had inside information from someone years and years ago who knew many details of the Jeffrey Epstein case, and that in their opinion, Epstein was not a pedophile because he preferred young teens, like 15-year-olds, not children under 10. And Megyn said it wasn't until Pam Bondi said they had thousands of hours of child porn from Epstein's computer that she believed Epstein was a pedophile. And then she went on to say that she thinks there's a difference or a distinction between abuse of young teens and abuse of children under 10. And I thought, what? No. Anyone who has parented a child, a teen, knows that they are vulnerable. They don't have that adult mentality. Abuse of a teen is sexual abuse, full stop.
It is.
Yeah.
A teen doesn't have an adult mentality.
No.
Period.
No.
The adult mentality that's required for full consent, sexual consent, is not there as a teen.
Right.
It's not there. The maturity that is required for that is not there.
Right.
So yes, still children.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 15 and 16, and my mentality at that time, I could easily become a victim.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Boys or girls.
Boys or girls.
Honestly.
Well, what was the statistic you said, or I saw a statistic because I was looking into it, preparing for this video. 1 in 4 women have been abused sexually as a child, and 1 in 5 as for boys.
1 in 5 men. Yeah.
For men.
Exactly. Have been abused as a child. Yeah. So it's prevalent. It's out there.
And that statistic kind of struck me because of boys.
Yeah.
You don't see boys as victims as much as you see girls.
But they are.
And they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They are. And abuse can be anywhere from improper touching to full penetration to, I hope YouTube doesn't ban me for saying that, but it could be violent, it could be non-violent. It just specifically means non-consensual to a child.
Right.
And when a child doesn't have the mentality to consent based on maturity and even just the way their brain is wired or works, that is non-consensual.
So abuse of a teen, you're a pedophile.
Yep. That's
if they're not an adult, it's pedophilia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had researched information about marriage, like the age of consent for marriage. And even here in Utah, you can get married as a teen if you have parental consent.
Right. And that's the case in a lot of states, as it turns out. I read an article called Believe Them the First Time by Jermaine Fowler, and he did a great job, tons of sources and all that, and in pointing out that there's a bit of an underground pervasive culture of permissiveness around sex with young teens. And even younger than teens, preteens. It turns out that 4 U.S. states still have no minimum age for marriage.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Massachusetts allowed 12-year-olds to marry until 2022, and 34 states still allow child marriage at various age limits.
Okay.
So it's there, you know, the saying that like a marriage license would make it okay when it would otherwise be considered sexual abuse is, I think, a crazy loophole.
I mean, if a parent consents to their 14-year-old getting married, that means they're consenting to their 14-year-old getting sexually abused.
Right. Exactly. So it's still a problem, and there's still that resistance to making this protection for these vulnerable kids and teens.
Yeah.
And he also pointed out that wealth often allows perpetrators to get away with sexual abuse or gets them a lighter sentence.
Right.
So it's just an overall permissive culture that hides in plain sight.
Yeah.
And I was disturbed by finding out just a sampling of lawmakers who have come right out and not protected children.
Yeah.
He highlighted Missouri Senator Mike Moon, who voted against banning child marriage, and he said, "Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12? I do. And guess what? They're still married."
But that doesn't make it a good thing.
No, exactly.
Just because they're still married.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a good thing.
No, it can be very bad. Still.
Right.
West Virginia Senator Mike Stewart opposed raising the marriage age to 18, and that led to the bill dying in committee 9-8.
Okay.
Wyoming's Republican Party circulated an email saying that since minors can get pregnant, marriage must remain open to them for the sake of those children. I'm like, wait a minute. The only remedy for your minor getting pregnant is not immediately marrying them. That's not really a remedy. It's something that might happen, but it's not a solution to your minor child getting pregnant.
No, there's so many cases where teen marriage because of a pregnancy ends in divorce.
Yeah.
Like it just
and
is that any better? Is that any better?
Yeah.
For those children, for the sake of those children, is that any better? No.
Right. They
That's
struggle
worse.
And have neglect and all kinds of things arising from that. So yeah, I think it's bad. And then in Mississippi in 2018, 38 Republicans and 2 Democrats voted against banning marriage for children 14 and younger. So it's out there, you know?
Yeah.
It really is.
So then going back to Epstein, didn't you say there was someone that reported Epstein and Trump to the FBI at some point?
Way back in 1996.
Oh,
Maria Farmer reported it. She gave them names, she gave them dates, she gave them locations, gave them evidence about both Epstein and Trump. And nothing happened.
Wow.
And she came back in 2006. More evidence, more names, more dates. Nothing happened. And so I think it's important to realize that would have been under multiple presidents, right?
Right.
And I mean, not that a president has anything directly to do with what the FBI is doing normally, but still, it's not just a Republican problem or just a Democrat problem, right?
Right.
Nothing happened, even though she reported twice. So, and one of those men that she reported has become president now, twice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's disgusting.
It's a problem. So on Wednesday, we had administration members holding an emergency meeting in Washington to try to keep those Epstein files sealed, the main body of them that the FBI or the Justice Department still holds.
Yeah.
What we've been getting in the last few days is from the Epstein estate.
Yeah, it's not from the government. It's directly from
trove.
The estate, so it's not going through the government.
Right.
And so we're actually getting.
It was subpoenaed by that subcommittee.
Yeah.
In Congress, but still, it's not from the Justice Department. Right.
Right.
And then, Ghislaine Maxwell gets moved to a cushy prison camp and gets perks. She's preparing to ask for a commutation of her sentence.
Yeah. Well, you got to ask yourself, what's a child? Yeah. What is a child? Is that child someone under 18?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I still consider my boys, my kids, even at 18, they're still going to high school.
Yeah.
So I still consider them a child. They still consider themselves a child until they graduate high school. You know, you can't sign a legal contract until you're 18.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's contract law involved in that. You can't buy a car. You can't rent an apartment or house.
But yet we still have 4 states that are allowed to marry kids off at any age.
Yeah.
Any age.
Yeah.
Could be 7. Yeah.
I mean, in my thought, you know, is a child someone who can't consent? Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And that even means adults who are mentally disabled,
right,
unable to consent.
Right, exactly.
You know, and why does a marriage license make that legal?
It shouldn't make it legal. Yeah.
Or is a child only a child when it's convenient?
Yeah. And what is justice, right?
Yeah.
We need to ask ourselves these questions.
I know. Yeah.
So then we came to 2 interviews that we both watched.
Yep.
About 2 people who have done just about as much as anyone can to fight directly against child sexual abuse and trafficking.
Yes.
Jason Lunquist is a retired police detective from Waco, Texas. He had 21 years of service, 9 of them as a supervisor of the Crimes Against Children unit. He currently serves as an instructor for the Sexual Assault Family Violence Investigators course for the Texas Municipal Police Association. And he develops curriculum and presents on things like digital evidence, investigative bias, sexual assault, and human trafficking.
Right.
And then we watched the one, Paul Hutchinson.
Yes.
He's a wealthy Utah businessman and entrepreneur who turned to undercover work rescuing trafficked children. He's led 70 missions over 10 years all over the world. He started 2 foundations, the Child Liberation Foundation and Liberating Humanity. So it was very interesting hearing from these 2 very experienced people who have years and years of work directly against this.
Right.
So Jason, usually he's the one who was the police detective. He said he had usually about 2,500 cases per year.
That's a lot.
Yeah, just in one area. 75% involved sexual abuse of children. The rest, other abuse.
How big was his team then when he had that many cases?
He only started with 4 detectives.
Oh, wow.
Plus himself, and he ended up with 6 by the time he retired. But that was it to handle it all. He had to do cases himself because there was just so much that they could barely even hardly come on top of it.
Yeah.
And he pointed out that most sexual assaults and traffickers of children are someone the child knows.
Yep. Yeah, I heard the statistic was anywhere from 90 to 95% on that, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's not always kidnap the child and take them to South America or something.
In fact, those are pretty rare. Yeah. Out of all the cases. I think
it was Paul who said that most trafficked children sleep in their own beds at night.
Yeah.
Either their parents don't know or their parents are involved in the trafficking.
Right.
Yeah. That Paul said 1 out of every 4 women you know are victims of sexual abuse as a child, and 1 out of every 5 men have been a victim of sexual abuse or violence as a child.
That's one I brought up earlier on that one because I was surprised 1 out of every 5 boys, men, that are sexually abused as children.
Mm-hmm. And they found that rates are higher among those who go into the military. Military members have a higher rates of adverse experiences in childhood and adolescence than the general population, and 70% of felons report being abused as a child. So obviously affects people a great deal.
Yeah.
Paul said that in one operation that he was involved with, where they used a tracker identification program on the dark web, and they found 800,000 unique people on the dark web who downloaded child rape videos. So it is widespread. It's pervasive. There's a real problem in our country.
So, I think we have to examine what leads people to become abusers and traffickers.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about what you found out there.
Well, Jason said he thought he understood how the world worked after 15 years of policing, being a beat cop, dealing with people. He thought he knew. He said he used to categorize people as good or bad, black or white. He learned better, he said, after 9 years of working on child abuse. as a police officer who has worked with children for so long, he said he now understands why a child might not report their abuse or why they might recant their testimony. He said most people don't want to believe all the bad stuff that goes on in the world.
Right.
And it's easier to say, oh, I don't believe it, because solutions are not simple.
Yeah.
The ways that people exploit another human being are usually through vulnerabilities, which take time to develop. They don't have simple solutions.
Yeah.
He said he learned what it was like to be faced with complex problems that don't have a simple solution, where he didn't know what the next step was. That most sexual abuse perpetrators had been victims. They had drug problems. They had lousy childhoods. It doesn't excuse it. Solutions aren't easy. And then Paul talked about that too. He said, the person selling you a child was likely raped and had 1,000 bad things happen to them.
Yeah.
If you would talk to the traffickers and ask them what brought them to cross this line into hurting children, you would find out that they also had abuse and trauma. He said it doesn't excuse the horrific acts, and they make him very angry. But he says he understands that broken people often go on to hurt other people.
Because they remain unhealed. They have repressed memories at times, and they just react to their belief systems, how their brains got wired from that abuse and how that set their belief systems.
Right. He did point out that doesn't mean that because you were abused, you are definitely going to go on to be an abuser.
Right. No.
Yeah.
No.
That the majority of abused people grow up to become protectors.
Yeah.
Not abusers. 2/3 of abused people statistically go on to become protectors, both men and women. But 1 out of 3 of both men and women, if not given what they need to heal, will become a contact offender, and they'll go on to hurt many children.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I grew up to be a protector. I'm one of the Me Too. I was abused as a child, sexual abuse, and I grew up to be a protector, not an abuser. But see, I also had access to healing methods and therapy and all of that. And so, that's what makes me able to even say it out loud.
Right.
Because I recovered repressed memories in my mid-20s and was able to go through a therapeutic process to heal those repressed memories and to know that none of that was my fault.
Right.
And then to also be able to reach out to others and help them understand that what's happened to them, it's not their fault. Getting rid of the shame, getting rid of the hiding, like you mentioned, the girl who reported.
Right. Yeah, there was a story that I think it was Paul told, where there was the little girl who reported being abused, and her mother was upset, her brothers and sisters were upset, even her school counselor was upset.
Yeah.
And so the next time that she talked to the police, she recanted her testimony. Maybe it was Jason. And everything went back to normal.
Right. So, that kind of weight of isolation.
Yeah, right.
For a child is also in and of itself almost a form of emotional abuse, isolationism, feeling isolated, feeling separate, feeling almost shunned.
Right.
Like what Native Americans used to do as punishment. They would shun. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to help people get to a place where they don't pass that trauma on.
Right.
And Jason said the same thing. So there's a lot. He said there's a lot less good people in the world than we think.
I think that that's
very few people are just born bad.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That we're all a product of our upbringing, our environment, our childhoods. He said there's very few people that are just natural pieces of shit, right? There's a decent human being in most people.
Yeah.
And he said you have to be able to look at people and see some value in everyone. And if you can do that, you can look at the world differently. And so
what do you think? What's the most that we can do to help?
Well, let's go back to what both Paul and Jason said. Both of them said, focus your efforts where they're most impactful.
Okay.
So you don't have to scatter everywhere, right? You can focus where you think you're going to do the most good. And Jason said that on the whole, he feels like as a police officer, he hardly made a dent. Just that it kept coming and coming and coming. Abuse of children being so widespread. he said that most of the time you're going to fail, so you need to spend your efforts where you can have the most impact. And he remembers this one 17-year-old victim. She couldn't remember anything of her life before age 12.
Repressed memories.
When her abuser started giving her meth and sexually abusing her.
Yeah.
But he said helping that particular victim long term was more impactful to him than all of the work he had done in 15 years as a patrol officer, just arresting people.
Yeah.
And he gave some specific advice for emergency workers, like police and trauma counselors and stuff. He said he felt that in emergency services, we create victimization, that you don't have to take the other people's trauma onto yourself. And he said a lot of emergency workers can get compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
They get jaded because they feel there's really very little they can do that will actually make a difference. So he said he would get compassion fatigue when working with adults as a police officer, but not with his work with children. But he did say you have to give yourself an exit day. You can't care about everybody, and you have to plan at some point you're going to go do something else, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
And he also said therapy was very helpful to him.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then Paul said, I thought this was really interesting. He said after 10 years and 70 missions rescuing thousands and thousands of children, he said, looking at the statistics, he saw that there were still more children being sold than there had been the 10 years before.
Right.
And so he realized if his goal was to eradicate sexual abuse and trafficking of children from the world, he wasn't doing a very good job. Which is kind of crazy. So he said he would not recommend that we go off into a foreign country to try to fight child sex trafficking. The best thing we can do is to help our own children have a happy, healthy environment and a good relationship with us where they feel safe coming to us if anyone tries to exploit them.
Yeah, prevention.
Prevention is key.
Yeah, that is the key.
Yeah. That they both said we needed to reduce the demand or more children would be sucked into trafficking. And we need to help people get to a place where they don't pass that trauma on. He said both of them said fighting fire with fire, it will not work long term.
Right.
We need prevention. Therapeutic intervention for abused people who are potential or current abusers. Therapy for emergency workers.
Yeah.
Advocates for therapy. So he also, Paul was talking about plant-based psychedelic medications.
Yeah.
And their work to treat anxiety and PTSD and drug addiction. And I'd heard about that before, that it can be extremely effective. So that's something that people could look into.
Right. Right. As long as they don't do it recreationally, right?
No, because he said it's incredibly dangerous to do it recreationally. You have to do it with someone who's experienced.
Yes.
Who can guide you through it. He meditates every day. He's not stuck on material things anymore. He's let go of his greed and his arrogance and his lust.
Yeah.
He believes in forgiveness and releasing judgment, and he believes in God.
Yeah.
And then some of us are in public-facing professions, right? So training to identify abuse and trafficking signs can be really impactful. Both of those men were training others to recognize signs of abuse and trafficking. Jason is training police. And Paul's foundation has trained many doctors worldwide in what to look for, because they said 80% of children who are trafficked will get brought to a doctor at some point.
Yeah.
And so the doctor can know what to look for. They can help. So if you are in a public-facing profession, definitely take advantage of training on recognizing signs of abuse and trafficking.
Yeah.
And then what about our own kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got to be open with our children.
Yes.
And our family.
Have open conversations on how they can protect themselves.
Yeah.
I saw a video just yesterday or today about a cheer coach, one that you shared with me that punished these 8th grade cheerleaders. And these cheerleaders just took it. They were required to do crab crawls and whatnot around the school track. It was an outdoor track in Texas in over 100-degree heat. And these children got first and second degree burns on their hands and feet, and one needed to go to a burn unit, and those kids needed to be able to say no.
Yeah.
that they weren't going to do that. And
our kids need to know that it's okay to say no to an adult in authority, because not every adult can be trusted to be able to act in that child's best interest.
Yeah. And one thing that we don't want to put on our children is their requirement to manage our emotional responses.
Right.
If your child comes to you with something that happened, even though you might be screaming on the inside, stay calm.
Yep.
And believe the child.
Right. Stay calm and support the child.
Yes.
That's the most important thing, because like that little girl we talked about earlier who recanted her testimony because everyone in her family was so upset. It's like, no, if you support your child and you stay calm, then
they don't have to manage your emotional response. They can focus on their own emotions about it.
Right. And it's so important to be open. There was another story I think Paul told about a woman whose grandfather had molested her. Mm-hmm. And she kept quiet about it, and she just grew up to be really hypervigilant with her own children.
Right, that generational abuse, yeah.
Right. But then she found out years later that other people in the family had also been abused by the grandpa. It had spread, and then other family members who had been abused had come and abused her own children over the years. And she didn't even know, despite her vigilance.
Yeah.
So it would have been so much better if she had been open about it and talked about it with probably both her family of origin and her own children.
But when there's an environment that isn't open and welcoming to that kind of talk,
it's hard.
It doesn't happen.
No.
In fact,
but she could at least
what happened to me is
children.
what happens. And that's where, well, I did something bad. It's my fault. Mm-hmm. The mind then compartmentalizes the memory and suppresses it so that a child can do math in school the next day.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. But if she could do that with her own children to prepare them so they would have known,
mm-hmm.
Grandpa's not someone to be trusted, and it could be extending to other family members. And the abuse went on with more family members because it wasn't brought up, right? Nobody was watching Grandpa.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to be open.
Yeah. So what we as Americans do about this belated reveal of the Epstein files and the trafficking network will reveal who we are as a nation.
Yeah. Who are we as Americans? Are we someone who's just going to excuse this? Who's going to sit by and say, oh, well, it's the president, I don't want to have to confront this. Mm-hmm. No, we got to confront this.
I mean, many have had fears of a deeply, deeply laid network of all of these powerful, wealthy, placed child traffickers here in the U.S.
And here it is.
Right in front of us.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, it looks like our president and many other powerful figures are entangled in it.
I mean, we want the truth. We want it to stop.
Yes, and it can stop. It can be different if all of us have a part to play in that.
I mean, which prince was it? Prince Andrew has been stripped of his prince title.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing something about it in the UK.
People did it, and we can do it. We can do that.
Yeah.
We can all play a part.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what you think and what you feel, more importantly, about this subject and this topic. And if there's something else you would like us to cover in a future episode, let us know.
Check out our Facebook and our Blue Sky to keep informed and get updates.
Go to our Substack to get more detailed information on what we talk about in our videos and to see our publications.
Press that like button and hit subscribe to help get the word out.
And welcome to the conversation.